ladies and gentlemen. We are on the air with Woolen Men from Portland in Oregon. Am I right? Lawton, welcome to the show.
Yes, thanks so much. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm really excited about today's episode because, I've been testing this new technology to record remote calls, and this is the first episode with these new technologies. So I hope this is going to be a great episode in terms of audio quality. Yes, how are you, Lawton?
I'm good. I'm still working. I work from home. I'm one of the lucky people that still has a job. So I'm a little stir crazy, but I'm like putting in the hours. I'm still making a paycheck, and we're relatively safe here. Oregon has very few confirmed cases compared to like California, for instance. So we've been we're pretty good. I'm like not I leave the house sometimes. How are you? What's it like over there? Where are you exactly? I don't even know where you are.
I am from Ecuador. I live in the Amazon rainforest, and I'm kind of in a safe place, but yeah, lots of people have died. We are under lockdown. I am the one who goes once a week outside to the groceries, but yeah, it's a really sad situation. We do have a lot of cases.
I'm sorry to hear that. Wow. Yeah, you do the shopping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm responsible for that.
Is that your family in the background that I heard?
Yeah, that was my little daughter before we started the show. She was playing around.
Are they yeah, are you guys going crazy over there?
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, we live in a house and we are surrounded by beautiful nature, so we do get outside and go for a walk, so we don't see too much people around here. But yeah, it's definitely a new situation. I work at university. I'm a professor, but right now it's semester break, so I'm producing my podcast. It's all I'm doing right now, so to stay healthy and safe at my home.
Do you have you interviewed other musicians
Yes, of course, absolutely.
for your podcast?
Yeah, yeah. I've had really great guests on the show already. Kalita and Super Yamba Band. Last week I talked to George Potter Jr., the bassist of The Meters. That was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. It was like a dream come true.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's too bad that my bandmates could be here. They're obsessed with the meters.
Oh, really? Wow. Then you should check it out. It was a really cool episode. Fortunately, we did had a couple of technical problems with the audio, but in general, the conversation is really meaningful.
Was it a same? Did you just reach out to him to interview him like you did to me?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I do have some sort of
Yeah, it's
strategy.
amazing how the
Yeah,
internet makes it so easy.
yeah, absolutely.
And everybody's happy to talk on the internet
Yeah, yeah. A year ago
to
when I
anybody,
when
really.
I started producing the podcast, I never thought that I could reach out to some of the people that I grew up admiring. It was like, wow, my heroes and stuff. But yeah, basically, I know how technology works. I've been goofing around with computers for a long time, but basically, I am also the booking agent. Yeah, so the internet, what a crazy place, right?
I've noticed that about the internet that it's easier than you would think to just kind of ask somebody if they want to do something, and most of the time they just say yes,
Yeah, yeah.
especially right
Most of the
now.
time. Most of the time it works. Yeah, and you have been making music for a long time now with Woolen Men. I think you've how many
Yeah,
albums have you recorded?
well, I guess if you count like official records, probably six, but in
Six.
between that number of releases, there's been quite a few more. We started out when the band first started, we released music primarily on tape,
Mm-hmm.
like cassette tapes, because
Yep.
Raphael, my bandmate, had a cassette tape label that
Oh,
was
cool.
based out here in Portland. So we put
Yeah.
out quite a few. Um, tapes of maybe like, I guess you could call them EPs. They would be like maybe 4 to 7 songs. And as
Yeah.
we got more ambitious, we started recording things that we sort of more consider to be records, and then graduated to releasing vinyl records both independently through our own label and also in partnership with other small labels around the United States that were interested in working with us.
Yeah.
These days, for the last few records, we've mostly just released our own music through our own label, because I think
Yeah.
financially that makes the most sense in this music economy that we live in now. So it
Absolutely.
really,
Hmm.
like, if you go on Discogs and you look at the Woolen Men releases, it's like there's
Hmm.
like maybe 14 to 16 releases if you count the 7 inches and the tapes, and there's all,
Yeah.
and yeah, a lot of different formats too. So, but yeah, about 10
Okay.
years with the band at this point.
10 years with the band. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was checking your Bandcamp page yesterday, and yeah, I was impressed with how much music you already have recorded. And do you so you make that independently? Do you write, record, and produce your music by yourself? And where does the magic take place? Do you have a home studio, or how
Well,
do you do that?
we've worked, yeah, we worked together recording ourselves since the beginning, because we
Mhm.
all kind of come from like a DIY backgrounds, especially in Portland, sort of pre like Portland's brief fame as a hip place. It was the kind of a city where essentially if you didn't make it yourself, nobody was going to do it for you. There's no real music infrastructure here of any kind. There's no major labels. Nobody's really paying attention to the music that comes out of the city.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so aside from like people who are already famous, basically, like Elliott Smith or
Hmm.
something like that.
Yeah.
So we were very used to from the beginning recording, engineering ourselves. And we now kind of have like a group of people that we work with. We have, I wouldn't really call him a producer. We have like a sound engineer who does
Hmm.
mixing for us.
Hmm.
Evan Mirsky, he's mixed like the last two Woolen Men releases, and he's mixing the new. So we just we're just about to release a new single actually,
Oh, cool.
and
When it's coming out?
we're it should be out. It's May 8th, Friday, May 8th.
Okay, so next week, in 2 weeks,
So
about.
yeah, yeah. It's
Hmm.
part of a new project that we're doing that's sort of quarantine inspired. That's like a singles club, essentially.
Okay.
So
Okay.
instead of releasing records or EPs, we're going to release a single at a time, for the
Yeah.
next like couple months. We have kind of four
Yeah.
or five singles in the pipeline in
Hmm.
various stages of being completed, like mixed or mastered. So we'll be releasing those over the next couple months. It's kind of a new strategy for the band. The
Yeah.
internet is
Absolutely.
really single focused.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
the net tends to emphasize like the shock of the new. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always about the,
Yeah.
the novelty of
Yeah.
a new toy to play with. So this is like our attempt, I guess, to finally acquiesce to the demands of the market and produce something that
Hmm.
we can get onto Spotify playlists and things like that. It's a change for the band. We've never really done anything like that before.
Yeah, but this is sort of the cool thing about the internet, that we, musicians, podcasters, we all can still produce kind of high quality stuff and put it out there. Like, for example, if I think about broadcasting in the 90s, 80s, you get a camera, it costs $2,000, and then what do you want to do with the camera? You cannot edit the video and stuff. So it's the possibilities are so many right now.
Yeah, I mean, we were fortunate enough to have a couple of songs like finished or nearly
Hmm.
finished once the quarantine came down. So
Yeah.
this is kind of our attempt to like stay active. We're also part of the singles club is that we're hiring uh, artists that we have worked with in the past, or sometimes new artists, to create cover art for each song. And it's
Mm-hmm.
an attempt to support artists in our community financially, and to work with people. We always tend to work with artists who we admire or people that we want to reach out to and work with. So this is like an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to kind of employ people in our community who may or may not have any financial security right now. Um,
Oh yeah, that's
and it's
awesome.
been nice
Mm-hmm.
because we're doing it. Yeah, we're doing it. One cover per song, so we can, as long as we can continue to produce these singles, we can continue to pay the artists too, which has been like
Mm-hmm.
a nice thing. I really like working with artists uh, with the songwriting, because you get their perspective on what the song is about, and they have their kind of own take on what's going on with the music. And if you do it right, you discover something new about the song through their own eyes, even if you wrote it
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's
it's
cool.
been really nice. Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah, awesome. Um, I saw one of your. I was watching one of your videos yesterday, "Temporary Monument," and it says directed and edited by yourself on location in Budapest and Lima, Peru. So you have you been to South America? Have you been traveling a little bit over the last years?
Yeah, that video is actually a very long running project. So when I was in college, I studied in Budapest at a
Oh,
university there called Central European University for a
uh
semester.
huh.
It's actually
So you
George
live there?
Soros's university. He founded it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really remarkable institution. It was founded after the Second World War to foster
Mm-hmm.
like collaboration between countries that had been under fascist regimes. Um,
Yeah.
and so I went there and I studied, and I brought along an 8 millimeter camera,
Mm-hmm.
and
Wow. Cool.
I shot a bunch of 8 millimeter footage. And
Uh huh.
then when I was after I left Budapest, my girlfriend, who had also taken a semester off, was teaching English in Lima. So instead of going back to the United States, I went to see her in Lima, and I brought the
You
camera
took
with
it.
me, and I had
Oh, okay.
maybe 12 more minutes of cartridge footage. And then
Mm-hmm.
after I shot all that footage, it stayed in my refrigerator for about maybe 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know, but producing, like exposing 8 millimeter footage is very expensive.
Yeah.
There's actually very few places in the United States that will even do it anymore. I think there's like
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
on the West Coast.
You're right.
So I got a tax return one year, and I used the
Mm-hmm.
money from my tax return to print the footage and edit it, and that became the video for Temporary Monument.
Awesome.
Um,
Oh,
I
that's
have kind
that's
of a
really.
side hustle as a yeah. I'm interested in film editing particularly,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't get much chance to work on film projects.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's similar to the band, it's like if you want to work on a project, you have to make it for yourself. So you'll notice that there are actually a couple of the music videos that I directed and edited, and that's really because I was interested in doing video projects.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. They are
and
pretty
that
awesome.
was one of the first ones. I thought it came out pretty nice. That when I was
Yeah.
in Budapest, the footage in the graveyards is all from a like a communist. Well, it's kind of complicated. Like, do you recall the footage in the video that's of kind of these monumental sculptures of
Mm-hmm.
like workers? So what those sculptures are is it's like after Budapest was liberated from the uh, Nazi Party, the communists came in and they took a lot of the statues that had been in the city, and they piled them into this essentially like a graveyard for military propaganda.
Hmm.
which is what you're seeing when you see that footage. It's an amazing place. It's kind of a graveyard of
That's
ideology.
interesting. That's interesting. I don't remember being there because I've been to Budapest. And I love it. It's a beautiful city, right?
Yeah, I was actually pretty miserable when I was there, but now I wish I could go back. Now I miss it.
Yeah. So you studied there, and then you went to Peru. Did you travel around South America too, or just Peru?
Just Peru, because that was where my girlfriend was at the time. Although
Yeah.
we did do a little bit of traveling within Peru. That was
In Peru.
maybe in like maybe 2011 or something like that. I'm really bad with dates, so that I'm the wrong person
Yeah.
to ask about dates. But that was where that's where that footage came from. And the farther I get away from it, the more it feels like a real time capsule to me. And I'm glad that I carted that stupid 8 millimeter camera around with me. At the time, I remember
Yeah.
thinking like, what if I shoot all this and it's none of it comes out because I didn't have a light meter or anything.
Hmm.
Um, so it was all just kind of an experiment on my part.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So, talking about your music now, what are some of the bands or artists that influence you the most? Like, what was sort of the first band that really spoke to you? Do you have any kind of memories about?
Yeah, of course.
Uh,
I mean, every musician has influences like
yeah,
that. I think
yeah,
that for Woolen Men, it was probably like locally in Portland, it was the Wipers. If you're familiar with them, do you know them
Wiper.
at all?
Yeah. Hmm.
Have you heard of that band?
Oh yeah, they are cool. I saw a documentary once. I
Yeah,
think. Yeah, yeah,
and I would also, I mean, they were just like one of the few independent bands in Portland that ever had any success outside of the city. And they
yeah.
also were particularly successful in Europe, which is something that's been true of Woolen Men as well. I think in general, we've had a much better reception in Europe than we've had in the United
Europe,
States. Something about our music
really?
the
Hmm. Yeah, it could
Europeans
be.
tend to respond to.
Hmm.
And also, I mean, other bands, um, I would say like regional American bands. So we
Yeah,
talk about the Minutemen down in
Minutemen.
Pedro,
Yeah, cool.
um, or a band like Pylon in Athens, Georgia. It's not really that we sound like Pylon, but it's more that um, or like the Meat Puppets, in Arizona. They're like bands that
Yeah, yeah.
aren't from traditional centers of music culture. Like they're not from New York or from Los Angeles. They're not really products of the music industry. They weren't created and produced by studio musicians
Hmm.
and songwriters, like professional songwriters in LA.
Yeah,
They're bands that
yeah,
really came out of the region that they're from. And that I feel like is like always been our kind of strength as a band is that we're really rooted in um, like our influences are primarily tied to where we're from, and they kind of come out of
yeah,
our own like homegrown ideas about songwriting and about what music should be like. That and so yeah, I think that's any kind of local or regional music is really important to
yeah,
the
yeah,
band.
yeah,
I'm trying to think
yeah.
about like
Have you
contemporary bands that go on.
have you heard of this band? It's called The Whitest Boy Alive. I think they're from Sweden. It's one of my favorite bands, and when I heard your music, I kind of thought about this band. Have you heard of them? The Whitest Boy Alive.
No,
They're really
it's a
cool. Check them
very
out.
weird name.
Yeah, it's a weird name for a
Yeah,
band, but they're really cool. I think they're from Sweden. And the Strokes
um,
too. I thought about the Strokes a little bit too.
the Strokes. You said? Did you say the Strokes?
Yeah, exactly. The Strokes.
Hey, can you hear me? Yeah, interesting. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean the Strokes were hugely popular right when me and
Mm.
Raphael and Alex, that my bandmates, were all they had their like initial popularity in right when we were graduating from college. So we all were exposed
Yeah.
to their music, whether we wanted
Absolutely.
to hear it or not.
Uh-huh. And where do you get your inspiration for writing music?
Ooh, um, that's a hard question. I mean, it can come from really anything. Like,
Hmm.
I am a voracious reader, sort of
Yeah,
an
cool.
obsessive reader,
Yeah.
and a lot of the initial seeds in I'm not going to speak for Raphael or Alex because they're not here, so I'll
Hmm.
only talk about my own songs. But
Yeah.
I guess I would. It's often something that you wouldn't expect, a sort of a trigger that gives an initial seed or an idea for a song, and then that can usually sometimes it can sit around for a long time. You know, I'll often like take a note on my
Yeah.
phone, like just like a real
Mhm.
quick note about a title of something that I'm interested in or an idea. So sometimes it starts from the lyrics, from a lyric or a title, and then other times it starts from like a melody or a phrase, musically,
Mhm.
and then you have to kind of build it from there. I feel like with the band with Woolen Men, it's often a matter of coming with for me with most of a song finished, and then getting together with the guys and completing the music collectively. And there's
Yeah.
some sort of alchemy that happens there with their um, sensibilities where they
Mhm.
transform the song. It
Yeah.
often does not sound at all like what it sounded like when I initially wrote it because it goes through a process of transformation with the like spirit of the other players. We've been
Yeah.
playing together for a long time, and so we sort of
Yeah.
understand a little bit about what we're looking for from each other too. But
That's cool.
that's I think that it's really important with Woolen Men to always be ready to be surprised. Um,
Mhm.
and
So
sometimes the best ideas that we have come from an accident, for instance. That's really common. It's like a mistake or an accident in a
yeah.
demo recording will become the basis of the song at the end.
Okay, so it's time for music. Let's listen to some music on the show now. You are going to hear the song K Punk. Yes, K Punk. K Punk. Some people have told me that they love the show, they love the podcast, but they think that I am a little bit too serious, like I have to laugh more or be a little bit more entertaining. And yeah, so I thought I will repeat the word K punk, K punk, K punk, K punk, K punk, K punk until you laugh and until I laugh because it's so ridiculous to repeat a word so many times. And this is the coolest thing about doing a podcast. You know, I can repeat the word K punk, K punk, K punk, K punk so much as I want to. And yeah, so and, you know, it's kind of. I mean, I love doing this. Doing this podcast is such a great experience, and but it's also sometimes a little bit stressful. So if I may sound a little bit serious on one of the shows, or sometimes it's just because, you know, I have to think in English and in German and Spanish, you know, and the pandemic, and my daughter is crying, you know. So sometimes the whole thing is driving me crazy, but I enjoy it and I love doing this, and just the fact of the matter that I have been so lucky to talk to so many great artists, and it's a reason why I'm still doing this, you know, by my own. So, listen to the Woolen Men. I really like this band, ladies and gentlemen. It's a really beautiful album, human to human. So yeah, listen to K-punk now, and we will be back in a minute. Stick around. Hey, can you hear me? Hey, hello. I can hear you. I can.
The clowns in the narrow
right, so we are back, and we are back with Woolen Men. Um, it's been a great show, great episode. We are talking about lots of cool things. So, Lawton, are you still there?
Yeah, of course.
You're a
How did
band
you discover
uh,
Woolen Men?
on
Our
on
band, my band.
on Bandcamp. I think it was.
Yeah. How did you find out about us?
Yeah, yeah. I was checking what. Yeah, Bandcamp definitely. I'm always checking
Oh, cool.
Bandcamp, new bands,
Did they
and
recommend us or
the
something? That we
reviews of
were
some albums, and then I saw one of your albums. Yeah, yeah. It was sort of a recommendation from Bandcamp, and then I
cool. That's great.
check you out. I really think your the artwork of your albums are really cool to also catch my attention.
Cool. Yeah, we've been Bandcamp has been a really important partner for us in terms of growing as a band. Being able to distribute
Yeah, it's a
our
really cool.
music that way and the fairness with which band treats its artists is really without them, I don't think we really would have gotten as far as we've gotten. They've been really important. We like to support them.
Yeah. So did you know like that's cool. So did you know early in your life that music would be something that you wanted to do for a major part of your life, or because you mentioned you studied, what did you study?
I study political
Oh,
science.
okay, political science. So do you have some sort of work music balance?
Yeah, I knew well, like a lot of people, I in America, I came out of a college system which really didn't prepare you for any kind of actual job in the real world. Although,
Yeah.
so right now I have a nice job. I work for a nonprofit in Oregon, a homeless rights organization called Central
Oh,
City Concern.
cool.
That is like a large,
Hmm.
yeah, and I have a really good job, and I'm really glad. But it's sort of only tangentially related to political science. You know, it's more like it's really
Yeah.
about people in recovery and providing housing and stuff like that. As far as the your
Oh, okay.
question about being knowing whether or not I was going to be a musician, I my father is
Hmm.
a musician, but that
Okay.
actually made me not want to be one.
Oh,
Because
really?
he was, I didn't think
I
that
think.
I would, I think it's sort of
Yeah.
a sort of a sick irony that I ended up being a musician anyway, despite the fact that my dad is. I did have a guitar in high school, which
Hmm.
I screwed around on in the hopes that it would, get me some girls. It didn't really get me any girls, and I was not very good at guitar. I
Yeah.
think it was really meeting Raphael that helped me to like be um, it was his recording practice and also our kind of mutual obsession with well, the music that we thought was cool at the time, like I don't know, like the DBs or the Feelies. Do you know that band, the Feelies?
Yeah. No, no, I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Oh, they're really cool. You should check them out. They're a
Yeah.
great like 80s alternative
Yeah.
rock guitar band from New
Really
Jersey.
cool.
They're really cool.
I'll,
They're great. Yeah,
I'll,
you'll
I'll do that. Yeah.
yeah, the Feelies. Yeah, they're really good. Um, so once
Okay.
we got together and started songwriting, it was really when Alex showed up. Alex is the guy who plays bass in the band. That we realized like we had
Yeah.
a band. Like we could write music together. It's funny. I've been talking about a bunch of music, and you asked about influences earlier, but I didn't mention what was probably the biggest early influence on Woolen
Hmm.
Men. Not so much these days, but when we started, it was like really the reason why I think the
Hmm.
band started, and that's a New Zealand band called the Clean.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, that
I don't
that
know them.
band,
Well, what's the name of the
yeah,
band again?
They're called the
Uh-huh.
Clean.
From New Zealand.
Clean, like CLEAN.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they are probably the biggest
CAN.
early influence on Woolen Men. And once you hear the Clean, you'll
Oh,
hear the
okay.
influence. Like in our early recordings and in our first record, it's like very strong. And we got
Yeah.
comparisons to them from like the press and stuff, which is cool. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I love the Clean. I still love that band. They're very similar to us. You know, they're
Yeah,
three
yeah.
young men, not so young now, from a kind of obscure place. They recorded their own music. Um, they're kind of eccentric in their. They're wonderful. They're really a wonderful group.
Yeah, I'm gonna check them out right after the podcast.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, yeah, please do. They're so good.
Yeah,
You won't regret
absolutely.
it.
That's cool. That's cool. Are you playing any live shows right now during the pandemic on Instagram or Facebook? I mean,
Sadly,
Instagram is
sadly,
full of live
no.
shows. I can
Oh,
unbelievable.
you mean like live on the internet,
Yeah, yeah. There are
like
lots
that,
of bands
like
right now on
live?
Instagram and Facebook. They're playing live shows. Yeah,
Huh?
it's crazy.
I can't imagine doing that. That just seems really weird to me.
Yeah,
As a performer,
I think it
I
costs a little
really
bit
need
dear, but
an
it's
audience. Like I guess I'm very used to like being able to interact with an audience and kind of feel like the response to an
yeah,
audience. And the idea of
yeah,
performing,
yeah,
making a digital representation is a little bit it makes me feel kind of weird thinking about it. I'm not surprised that bands are doing it like crazy, because everybody's vying for attention right now, and
yeah,
we're all stuck indoors, so like
yeah,
they're kind of a captive audience, so to speak.
yeah,
I suppose we could
yeah.
try it. I cannot imagine that the guys would be into it though. I don't know. Maybe they would. I just did that. Um, it never the thought never crossed my mind. I thought you were going to ask about whether were playing shows like in clubs. We did have a couple of shows lined up in California right before the
That
coronavirus hit.
that
So
was the next question.
we
Yes,
were
after after COVID. Yeah,
like after COVID is over.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would love, well, particularly now, I would love to go on
Where
the road. I before we could kind of take it or leave it, but now that we've been all stuck indoors for so long and we're so restless, I would be very happy to get out and play more shows. I would even play bad shows. I just want to play some music in front of an audience again. I miss it like crazy.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I think that's kind of the cool thing about this. We are all inside all the time, and the moment when this thing is over and we can go outside, I think we're going to enjoy more those moments, like
Yeah,
a gig in a
I've talked
bar,
about that.
just hanging out
Yeah, I
with
talked about that with my wife,
friends.
how crazy people are going to go when they finally get to be out in public again. And I admit I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing some energy from people and not have them be so anesthetized. I think it's going to take a little while to kind of relearn how to be out in public. Some people are probably going to be afraid,
Hmm.
and others will. And I don't know if you see like news, in California, there's like tons of people out in the beaches, even though they have all this. There's like a
Hmm.
lot. People go to the
Yeah.
beaches, but I imagine it's pretty weird on those beaches. Like it's not quite normal. Um,
I mean,
yes,
it's so
it,
weird with this virus, right? For some people, it's a death sentence, and other people don't even have symptoms.
yeah, it has a kind of a random power to it that makes it very hard to anticipate what exactly is right for you or for your family. I've been
Mhm.
pretty like I go shopping, I don't wear a mask usually, because I just there are so few cases in Oregon and it hasn't really been, but I'm definitely in the minority.
You don't
and
wear a
I
mask
know there's some
anymore?
people. I have not been wearing a mask when I go out. Um, there are lots of people that don't here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Okay.
then I know I'm in the minority when it comes to that. That most folks are like
Yeah.
really gearing up. Even though there's only 600 reported cases in Oregon, it's like um, they're still afraid, and uh, I don't blame them. I just did a
Mm-hmm.
quick
Absolutely. So
Google.
your last album is Human. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Human to human. Yeah,
I want. Yeah, I wanted to talk about a little bit about your last album, Human to Human.
great.
Uh, the name is pretty cool. Is there a story behind it? How has your sound changed over the last 10 years to come up to this
Yeah.
point of producing this very nice album, Human to Human?
Uh, Thank you. Yeah, Alex, who's the bassist, he named the record. He overheard that phrase on the street. Somebody was talking to somebody else, and I think they said something like, I want
Mm-hmm.
to talk to him, human to human. And the phrase kind of struck with him because it was a weird phrase, like not something people would normally say. And I think it's kind of
Yeah.
ambiance of alienation and also kind of like trying to welcome interaction was, I don't know, we all like the title. As far as the record itself, I
Yeah.
feel like it's sort of, in some senses, it's kind of a continuation of our last record, Post, with the exception of a few
Mm-hmm.
songs. One, the instrumental number on the album, In the Corner, is quite old. It's probably about
Mm-hmm.
4 years old. And we had just never recorded it
Oh.
or had a version that we liked. And so that's kind of the oldest song. And then I think the newest song is Mexico City Blues, which was written for the record as like the lead off single. Um, I personally, my
Mm-hmm.
goal for Human to Human was to try to make a more explicitly psychedelic record. I think that's actually a little hard with a band that only
Yeah.
has three players inside of it, because you tend to think of psychedelia and psychedelic music as being very like deep music, like it's having a lot of space to it, a lot of parts, a lot of like manipulations. Like if you think about the
Mm-hmm.
Beatles or something like Strawberry Fields Forever or like Lucy in the
Yeah.
Sky with Diamonds, it's like
Yeah.
that sonically there's like a lot going
So,
on with a recording like that. And that's like the opposite of a
yeah.
Woolen Men song. A Woolen Men song is typically super spare and really minimal. That's like our
Mm-hmm.
songwriting style. So I was trying to figure out a way to be psychedelic given the limitations of only having the two other guys in the band. And I don't know if I succeeded. I mean, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think the whole thing is psychedelic. That was kind of my idea. Um, and then it does have one song on it which is like uh, very much like a new sound for the band. That's the song Ecstasy of an Ant. Um, and that one almost has,
Yeah, it's my
kind of like
favorite
an
one.
80s. Yeah, it's my favorite song on the record too. It's that song. I've become more interested in like 80s textures lately, and I know that like American popular music is really obsessed with the
Mm-hmm.
80s right now. Like I would say that
Yeah.
pop music sounds
Yeah.
like 80s music to me right now. Even stuff like Mac DeMarco and things like that whole brand of sound is really defined by like a chorus guitar. And I guess I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to like write some songs that sounded like that. I mentioned this on another interview, but I was weirdly influenced by the R&B singer Sade,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems
Okay.
kind of strange to for like a white guy from Portland, Oregon, to try to want to sound like Sade, but I I'm really pleased with how willing the guys were to kind of go there with me, and um like
Yeah.
make it
Yeah.
happen. And I have been writing more songs kind of in that vein a little bit. So it was an experiment that I think was successful, and I like that it's funky. It's like it's cool to be in a band like a punk band, but be able to write like a funky pop song. I think my instinct is like I I
Yeah.
kind of have
Absolutely.
I kind of have like some top 40. I wouldn't mind writing like a song that was on the radio. I would like that. I don't expect that to ever happen, but I'm going to continue to write music that is like radio worthy in that way. And that this is like me trying to
Yeah.
stretch out a little.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. It's a wonderful album. And before we call it a day, I would say, is there anything else you want the world to know about the Woolen Men?
Oh, well, we have the new singles club coming out, so you can look out for our first singles
That's
coming out
wonderful.
Friday, May 8th. It's like a power pop song, and then we have three more prepped in the can. So if you like the band, I would just encourage you to support our music by buying our records or downloading our songs or listening to it on Spotify or whatever way you like to listen to music. Because when you do that, that is how we get money to create more music. I mean, it's literally like a one-to-one thing. Like the more people that listen to our music, the more songs we're able
Hmm.
to produce and create and pay for. I'd also encourage listeners to really support their local artists right now, and the people that they
Hmm.
like. Like even if it's a restaurant that's struggling or an artist that you
Yeah.
like, I mean, you can commission work from that person, and I'm sure they would be happy for the work. And I really want to just like emphasize that what we have right now to get us through this crisis are the communities that we build with each other, not the corporate
Hmm.
superstructures that are designed
Yeah.
to like crush our spirits. And that the best way to resist those corporate structures is to be local
Mhm.
in your choices about what you choose to support. And
Yeah.
um, so just to keep that in mind, because right now more than ever, the only way that anything local is going to survive is if it has real support from the community. And otherwise, we're all just going to be
Yeah.
staring at a bunch of, you know, big box stores owned by
Absolutely. I.
the same, you know,
Yeah.
5%.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
and Yvonne, I
Yeah.
want to
I
thank you
totally
so
agree
much
with you.
for inviting me. Yeah, I really
Thank you.
appreciate you
We've been
inviting me
talking.
on the air. And, yeah,
This was really cool. Did you have fun? We've been talking for over 40 minutes now.
yeah. Well,
So
I like to talk. I'm a good talker. So
yeah, that's great. That's awesome. For our audience here in South America will be also pretty cool. For the people who are practicing English, because we are speaking Spanish speaking countries, but people kind of like learning English. People kind of like listening to podcasts in English. Is a great way to learn foreign languages. So it's an awesome way to show them music from around the world. Great music that I love, that I recently discovered, and to have you as guest, and you mean listening to so nice words that you have said in this show is it's just great. So I wanted to thank you for your time and music, and yeah, keep up the great work up there, and stay safe, Lawton.
yeah, you too, Yvonne. My pleasure. Talk to you. Talk to you later, man.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. So let's call it. Yeah, let's call it a day with ecstasy of an end. Okay, we're
All
gonna
right.
hear one of your songs here on the podcast,
Cool.
and hey, bye,
Bye bye. Stay safe.
peace, bye bye. You too, bye.